What's up, Jeep family? Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Curt custom fit trailer wiring on our 2022 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. Trailer wiring is going to be one of those things that's absolutely essential if you plan on doing any kind of towing with your Jeep. It's going to keep you safe and legal out there on the road by allowing the Jeep to send its signal to the trailer, making those trailer lights function properly. That means your turn signals, your brake lights, and also your tail lights. Here's a closer look at our trailer wiring installed on our neighbor's Jeep. As you can see, they went for the draw-tight hitch, which actually has a welded-on bracket. Then we also had to add on a 4-pole bracket to make a nice clean look. That way everything's protected. You don't have to worry about the wires dragging on the ground or anything. If you didn't want to go for this, you could also just simply loop it onto your safety cable with the included dust cap, which is there to protect everything and keep dirt and corrosion out of it. But really, that's all there is to it. It's just one of those things, as I said, that's going to be essential if you plan on towing with your Jeep. And as for the installation, it's a pretty simple process. However, you do have to run a power wire to the front of the vehicle. So if it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, maybe you just don't feel comfortable getting under your Jeep, then please feel free to check out our dealer locator to find someone local to you that would be willing to help you out with that. If you are looking to get this installed yourself, then just follow along. I'll walk you through the process. Also, if you've installed this yourself, you want to share some tips or tricks, or maybe you just want to share some photos of what you're hauling behind your Jeep, please feel free to leave a review or a comment. We'll begin our installation by removing our tail lights. We'll be doing this on both sides. So on the inside here, there's a plastic cover. Just take a plastic trim tool, try to get under that and pop it out. With that plastic cover off, we'll reveal this 10mm bolt. Just remove that. With that out, we should be able to easily remove our taillight. We'll flip it around, pop up that red locking tab, push in on your pin, and then separate your plug. Can get kind of tight just from years of getting dirt in there, but you should be able to pull it apart. Then we'll set our tail light aside. So eventually our black module will get dropped down into that tail light pocket, but before I do that, I'm going to extend our power wire out. This will eventually get ran up to the front of the car where the battery is. So we have some extra black wire here. Just going to strip that back. And then I will crimp it onto a heat shrink butt connector. You will have some regular butt connectors in your kit, but anytime we're working outside the vehicle, I'll almost always recommend these heat shrink ones just to keep any moisture out from there. So with that crimped down, I'll heat it up, and then I'll run our wires down through the pocket and get everything situated. For our black box, your kit will have some double-sided tape. I'll just peel the backing off of that. And we're going to stick this in the bottom of our pocket here. I've already cleaned it off with some alcohol on a rag. But just push firmly and it will stick. And then we will send both our 4-pole and our green wire, that's going to be for our right side taillight, we're going to send it down in that pocket. Now for our white wire, this is our ground, so we'll take one of the included self-tappers. I'm going to ground it off in the bottom here. Really, you can do any piece of metal that you see, but since I have a long extension, I should be able to drive this self-tapper in. Now with all that installed, we can plug in our wiring harness. Just find the male plug, make sure you lock that tab, and then the other end will go right into our taillight. Same thing, lock the tab, then we can reinstall our taillight. So underneath the vehicle for our 4-pole wiring, what I did was just kind of bundled it up because we had a little bit of slack, and I tied it down. And then with our setup, we have a draw-tight hitch which comes with a bracket built on. So we installed that into a 4-pole bracket, which can be purchased separately. If you don't want all that, then it's perfectly fine to just hang it on the dust cap on the safety cable loop there. And then our green wire, what I did was I used an 11 millimeter socket to take these 2 nuts off, and I tucked our wiring up above that heat shield. And then what I'll have to do is fish it up into that tail light on our passenger side, and it plugs in the same way as the other one. And then for our power wire, it's going to be pretty hard to see, but I ran it up above our frame here. Our main goal is to stay away from any hot or moving parts. So to stay away from your suspension and your exhaust. Tucked it up along our frame. Then it came out to the outside here. Once I got to the outside, what I did was tuck it inside of our frame. It went inside the frame here. I just had to use some airline tubing to fish it through. And it's gonna follow that frame all the way up to the front. And this is where we will once again use that airline tubing to fish it up into our engine bay. Now we're in the engine bay. We had to run our wire over to the passenger side where our battery is. So I'll just cut off some of the slack on our black wire. Going to strip the end of it. And then before we can make our connection to the battery, we'll have to tie in our fuse holder here. So on this end, I will crimp on another heat shrink butt connector. Connect that to our fuse holder. Then the other end of the fuse holder, we'll get a ring terminal and we'll attach that to the battery. Now to make that connection to our battery, you can really use any of these studs here. I'm going to use a smaller one, just a 10 millimeter to get that nut off. Before you make this connection, just make sure that your fuse is not installed, just to prevent any damage that might happen. Let's slip our ring terminal over and reinstall the nut. Now we'll install our fuse into the fuse holder, and we're ready to test and make sure everything's functioning properly. Now we have our 4-pole tester plugged in. We do have these available here at eTrailer, or you could always hook up to your trailer to make sure everything's working. I'll just run through the lights. I just turned on our tail lights, left turn, right turn, and brakes. Now that we have tested everything, we know it functions properly. That's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Curt custom fit trailer wiring on our 2022 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.